right now, millions of people are basically exhausting themselves trying to force a harvest in the middle of winter.
Oh, completely.
Like, we treat our lives, our careers, and, even our emotional trauma like it's this math equation we can solve if we just put in more hours, grind a little harder, and just refuse to quit.
Right, because society tells us that constant visible output
Yeah.
is like the only acceptable metric for a successful life.
Exactly. We just assume that's the baseline.
And when you view life through that specific lens, any period where you aren't actively producing or, succeeding at a high level, it feels like a catastrophic failure.
That feels awful.
Yeah, if you aren't moving forward at top speed all the time,
Right.
you feel like you're falling behind. Everyone else is winning, and you're just stuck.
But a 3,000-year-old text suggests we are fundamentally misunderstanding how time actually works. Okay, let's unpack this, because today we are diving into one of the most recognizable, maybe even the most hauntingly beautiful passages in human history, which is Ecclesiastes chapter 3.
It's an incredible piece of literature.
It really is. Traditionally attributed to King Solomon, it looks right at our modern obsession with control and, optimization and endless hustle, and it just offers a radically different way to navigate the world.
A completely countercultural way, really.
Yeah. So our mission today is to explore these ancient, deeply honest observations about the cycles of life, and then figure out how embracing the hard truth about your own lack of control can actively strengthen your trust and your relationship with God.
Which is such a massive shift in perspective for most of us.
Right, because the overarching theme here is incredibly liberating, which is life is not meant to be controlled. It's meant to be understood and navigated wisely.
Yeah, and we naturally want life to be this straight, easy highway. We want a clear GPS that just says, turn left to reach happiness, turn right to avoid grief.
Just give me the directions.
Exactly.
Right.
But the text wastes absolutely no time in just shattering that illusion completely.
It shatters it beautifully, though. I mean, it opens with this famous, almost poetic rhythm. Verse 1 says, "To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven."
It's such a famous line.
And then it just launches into these stark side-by-side contrasts, like a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted.
Setting up those opposites right away.
Right. And it goes on to list a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. It's just a playlist of contrasting tracks,
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, like you can't skip the sad songs just because you want to dance. The contrast is what makes the playlist complete.
It covers the absolute extremes of the human experience in those opposing pairs. You've got creation and destruction, acquisition and loss, intense grief, and, euphoric joy.
When I look at those contrasts, it actually makes me think about biology.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, think of a deciduous tree in the dead of winter. It looks completely dead.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
just bare branches.
Exactly. It isn't producing leaves. It certainly isn't producing fruit. And if we applied modern hustle culture to that tree, we'd chop it down and call it a failure for being lazy.
We'd say it's not optimizing its time.
Right. But biologically, winter dormancy is the exact mechanism that allows the tree to survive freezing temperatures and produce fruit later.
It has to rest.
Yeah, the tree is pulling all its nutrients deep into its roots, so the lack of visible output is actually the work.
What's fascinating here is that this passage doesn't deny the painful complexity of life. It organizes it.
That's a great way to put it.
Because when you're in the middle of a chaotic or painful period, life feels totally random. It feels like the universe has just lost the plot entirely.
Like nothing makes sense anymore.
Right. But the core wisdom Solomon is offering is that the universe operates in seasons, not permanence. Dormancy isn't death, it's just a season.
It's just a season.
And that brings a massive psychological relief, honestly, because it
Yeah.
means what you are experiencing right now, whether it's an agonizing season of weeping or a really euphoric season of laughing, it's temporary. It is part of a larger functioning ecosystem.
It's just the current season. But, the text doesn't let us get too comfortable with that neat little bow because it introduces a really severe psychological tension right after that.
It does. It pivots pretty hard.
Yeah, in verses 9 through 13, the writer notes that God has made everything beautiful in his time. And it says God has set the world in their heart. And I think some translations say he put eternity in their hearts.
Yes, eternity in the human heart.
Right, but then it says, yet man cannot find out the work God makes from the beginning to the end. Wait, stop right there.
It's a frustrating verse.
It really is.
Yeah.
If God hardwired us to crave meaning, to want to see the big picture but then intentionally hides the puzzle box from us, that doesn't sound comforting to the listener. That sounds cruel.
You definitely can feel that way.
I mean, how are you supposed to find peace in what feels like a rigged game?
It absolutely feels like a rigged game if your goal is to be the author of the story. You've just hit on, like, one of the deepest sources of human anxiety there is.
I need to know how it all ends.
Exactly. Psychologically, our brains are literally prediction machines.
Yeah.
We hate open loops.
You really do.
There's actually this concept in psychology called the Zeigarnik effect, which basically shows that people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks way better than completed ones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, our brains just fixate on the unfinished. We crave closure. We want to know how the chapter we're in right now resolves the conflict of our whole life's narrative.
But we can't see the ending because we are stuck in the middle of page 42.
Precisely. We are characters inside the narrative. We're not the author outside of it. So the tension you're feeling, that frustration, it's real. But the text does provide a mechanism to relieve that tension, even if it's not the solution our ego wants.
Which is
Well, peace doesn't come from finally cracking the code or getting the puzzle box and controlling the narrative. Peace comes from actively engaging the present moment.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the text specifically highlights these simple tactile joys, eating, drinking, and enjoying the good of all your labor. It actually calls this the gift of God. So the antidote to the anxiety of the unknown future is immersing yourself in the physical reality of the present.
So the joy is found in the execution of the moment, not in, like, managing the grand finale.
Exactly, just being where your feet are.
But then Ecclesiastes takes what feels like a surprisingly dark turn. Verses 16 through 22 look at the harsh realities of the world. The writer looks at the places of judgment and righteousness and sees wickedness and corruption there instead.
Right, the injustice of human society.
Yeah. And then it hits us with this blunt, almost shocking assessment of our mortality. It says humans and beasts share one breath, both go to one place, and all turn to dust again. The writer concludes, all is vanity.
It's heavy.
Very heavy. So what does this all mean? How are you supposed to process this seemingly bleak observation that no matter how hard you try, you just end up as dust alongside the animals?
Well, it sounds incredibly nihilistic until you understand the original language. That word vanity in modern English usually means like arrogance or self-absorption, right?
Yeah, like staring in a mirror too long.
Exactly. But the original Hebrew word used there is hevel. And hevel literally translates to smoke or vapor.
Oh, wow. That completely changes the visual.
Completely. Think about what it's like to try and grab smoke.
You can't.
Right. It looks solid. It looks like something you can catch and contain and control. But the second you close your fist around it, it slips right through your fingers and your hand comes back totally empty.
That's a powerful image.
So Solomon isn't saying your life is meaningless trash. He's saying that trying to control the universe, trying to force permanent outcomes, is like trying to catch smoke. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the realization that we are dust is actually profoundly grounding.
Because it forces you to drop the smoke.
Yeah, exactly. First, regarding that injustice he sees, the text explicitly affirms that God shall judge the righteous and the wicked. It acknowledges that justice is often delayed, which is agonizing, but it's not ultimately denied.
The timeline just isn't ours.
Right, it's not ours. And regarding the mortality aspect, the whole dust-to-dust reality, the hard truth of this chapter is that you are simply not in control. Acknowledging your mortality is genuinely liberating.
Liberating. How so?
Think about the sheer volume of physical and mental energy you spend trying to prove your self-importance, trying to build permanent monuments to yourself so you won't be forgotten.
Trying to prove you aren't just a temporary character.
Right. And Solomon is looking at you and saying, you are dust. You are temporary. Counterintuitively, accepting that forces you to stop exhausting yourself trying to play God.
You can just let it go.
It allows you to step down from the throne of your own life, a throne you were honestly never equipped to sit on anyway. And once you step down, you can actually do what the text advises. Rejoice in your own works, which is your portion.
You're just responsible for your portion. You don't have to keep the planets in orbit.
Exactly.
And that realization that we're temporary, that control is just smoke, is the perfect bridge to why we struggle so deeply today. We've totally replaced the wisdom of seasons with the machinery of the modern world. Here's where it gets really interesting. Modern culture essentially demands a harvest during the planting season.
Oh, it does. We have absolutely industrialized the human soul.
We really have. We stand in a frozen field in early spring, screaming at a seed we just put in the dirt, demanding that it turn into a fully grown stalk of wheat by tomorrow morning.
And we get mad when it doesn't.
Right, and if it doesn't, we think the seed is broken, or worse, we think we are failures. We do this to our careers, rushing to be the CEO at 25. We do it to our relationships, expecting deep intimacy on, like, a third date.
Exhausting.
We hustle, we grind, and we expect immediate maximized output regardless of the actual season we are living in.
Because grind culture teaches us that effort is the only variable that matters. If you aren't getting results, just push harder. But Ecclesiastes tells us plainly, timing is greater than hustle.
Timing is greater than hustle. I love that.
Yeah, working harder does not and cannot replace working at the right time. The exact same action can wildly succeed or completely fail, simply depending on the alignment of the season.
Going back to the biology analogy, if you water a plant when it's actively growing, you nourish it. But if you dump that exact same amount of water on it during its winter dormancy, you rot the roots and kill it.
Wow, yeah.
The action was identical. The timing is what made it lethal.
That is the perfect mechanism to understand this. It's not about the sheer volume of your effort, it's about your alignment with reality. In our modern lives, we constantly compare our timeline to someone else's.
Social media makes that so much worse.
Unbearably worse. You log on to social media, you look around, you watch others succeeding and harvesting their crops, and you feel this crushing weight of being behind.
Like you missed the boat.
Right. But comparison in this context is biologically and spiritually absurd.
Yeah.
You aren't failing. You are just in a completely different season. They are in a time to reap, and you are in a time to sow.
That reframes everything.
Trusting God, in a very practical, boots-on-the-ground sense, means trusting His timing rather than relying entirely on your own exhausted hustle.
But let's push this beyond just careers and goals, because this applies heavily to our internal emotional lives, too.
Oh, for sure.
There's this immense modern pressure to always be okay. Like, we treat grief like it's a disease we need to cure in 48 hours.
Just get over it and get back to work.
Exactly. Society tells you to get over it. So you try to force a season of laughing when you are clearly, biologically and spiritually in a season of weeping. But let me challenge this idea of just accepting the season.
Okay, go for it.
If you are supposed to trust God's seasons, doesn't that make you dangerously passive? Like, well, it's a sad season, guess I'll just sit in the dark and do nothing for a year. How do you actually know when it's time to hold on versus the time to release?
This raises an important question, and it highlights one of the most vital distinctions in this entire text, the massive difference between acceptance and passivity.
Okay, lay that out for me.
Well, the text says there's a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Emotional seasons are completely normal. You are not broken because you are grieving. You are just in the season of grief. Discernment is the mechanism that keeps us from passivity.
So how does discernment actually function when you're in the thick of it?
It means you practice acceptance without surrendering your agency.
Okay.
Let's say you are in a season of profound loss. Acceptance means you don't fight the reality of the loss. You don't pretend everything is fine. You adjust your expectations of what you can produce right now.
You give yourself grace.
Exactly. You stop rushing the transition.
Right.
But you aren't passive. You still act wisely within that space. You seek counsel, you process the pain, you take care of your physical body. You do the quiet, invisible root work of winter.
You do the work appropriate for that specific season.
Exactly. And crucially, discernment is how we learn when a season is actually over. Holding on to a relationship that has become toxic, or a role you've outgrown, or a coping mechanism long after its season has ended that creates massive unnecessary suffering.
Because you're fighting the shift.
Right.
Right.
We often hold on because the familiar pain feels safer than the unknown smoke of the future.
Wow.
Wisdom is recognizing when the atmospheric pressure of your life has shifted, when the season has turned, and having the courage to release what no longer fits.
You know, when you zoom out and look at this pattern of seasons, this rhythm of holding on and letting go, it perfectly maps onto the broader biblical narrative.
It really does.
It's not just an isolated philosophy in Ecclesiastes. Like, look at the Psalms. They are entirely structured around these shifting periods of the human experience.
Oh, absolutely.
You have Psalm 107, which is all about these long, exhausting seasons of wandering through the wilderness, feeling lost, followed by eventual restoration. You have Psalm 102, which is this desperate cry from deep in the trenches of emotional weight and suffering. And then you have Psalm 1, which talks about the slow, steady growth of a tree planted by water, yielding its fruit, but only in its season.
That's entirely true, and Ecclesiastes 3 really acts as the master key that unlocks those other texts.
The master key.
Yeah, because those psalms give you the vocabulary for what to pray in those specific moments. But Ecclesiastes 3 explains when and why those shifts are happening in the first place. It removes the panic.
It normalizes it.
Yes, by honestly identifying your current season. By having the courage to say out loud, I am in a season of tearing down, or I am in a season of waiting, and then aligning your daily habits with that reality, life suddenly becomes far more understandable.
And when the mechanics of your life are understandable, even if the current season is agonizing, it becomes livable. You stop fighting the current.
Which brings us to the ultimate point about how this reshapes our relationship with God. When you constantly fight the season you are in, when you try to force a harvest in winter, you are essentially fighting God's sovereignty.
Because you're trying to play author.
Exactly. You are holding a handful of smoke and saying, I know better than the creator of time. I can manipulate the timeline. But when you surrender that illusion of control, it acts as a profound catalyst for your faith.
You just let go.
You stop exhausting yourself trying to play the author, and you allow God to be the one who controls the overarching outcomes. You do the work of your specific portion in your specific season, and you actively trust him with the rest.
So to bring this all together, the bottom line of Ecclesiastes 3 isn't fatalism. It's not a bleak admission that nothing matters. It is about alignment.
Perfect word for it.
When you align your everyday actions with the actual season you're in, and you trust God's overarching timeline, you find peace in the present moment. You stop constantly chasing the next milestone, you stop endlessly regretting the last failure, and you finally inhabit the now.
I'd like to leave you with one final thought, actually, something tucked away at the very end of this passage in verse 15. It's a profound summary of everything we've discussed.
Okay, what is it?
It says, that which hath been is now, and that which is to be has already been, and God requireth that which is past.
God requireth that which is past. That is a really fascinating phrase. What is the mechanism behind that?
Think about it this way. If God eventually requires that which is past, it means nothing you go through is ever wasted.
Wow.
Consider how the sharp pain, the unexpected joy, the tedious growth, or the exhausting waiting of your current season is actually God actively preparing you. He is building something inside of you right now, patience, empathy, resilience, humility, that he will explicitly require of you in the future.
He's gathering the tools.
Yes. You might not see how the puzzle pieces fit together from beginning to end, but the master architect does. Every single season is preparation for the next.
Wow. Every season is preparation. So going back to where we started, life isn't a turn-by-turn GPS. It's an unfolding landscape, governed by a creator who holds the entire map even when we are completely blind to the destination.
We just have to walk it.
The goal isn't to force the harvest or to catch the smoke. The goal is to faithfully walk the path of the season you are currently in. So as you step out of this deep dive and back into the rhythm of your own life, we want to leave you with this: how will you apply this information in your life?